All right, guys, thanks again for watching. This is hopefully the last video of the Brian Weissman Q&A. There's some more like deeper questions, not really magic stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the series. Please watch the other videos. I'll put links to all of them on the bottom. Quite a bit of videos, but thank you again, Brian, for your time. So, yeah. All right. So, first question: what is your greatest fear?
My greatest fear, man. Well, as a father, I think having a kid changes all of your paradigms as far as your sort of assessment of your priorities and what you truly care about. I certainly think that my greatest fear would involve anything irrevocable happening to my 8-year-old son.
Yeah, I think that's
sort of pretty much a no-brainer. I think anyone who has children can sort of speak to that.
How about, do you stress about anything in life at all?
At all?
I mean, you know, you can...
Yeah, I think that as far as, I'm a pretty low-key guy in most respects. I get very excited about the things that I'm passionate about, certainly, and magic is one of those things at the very top pinnacle. I used to care a great deal more about winning and losing in magic. I used to care a lot more about particular cards. Certainly, people have been privy to my passions about strip mine and Library of Alexandria and so on. But I think that most of my passion and things that I get excited about or stressed about these days relate to politics, actually.
Yeah.
And the direction of the political climate in the United States right now. What has become practically seemingly normal with regards to a lot of people and the sort of nascent racism and hypocrisy that's been exposed in a large portion of the electorate. It was very disheartening to see what happened in this country back at the end of 2016, to see the kind of sharp, almost regressive turn that the country made. And it really kind of exposed a lot of insidious bad things that people believed and things that were going on in general about the country, and it caused me a great deal of personal stress. I remember feeling almost kind of a state of PTSD after the election for about a month, where I just felt totally ill at ease. I just felt sick to my stomach all the time about it.
Yeah.
Human beings are resilient and kind of grow used to things, even uncomfortable things. So I think that to me and to many people, it's become less traumatizing and more normal over time. Not to say that it's acceptable to any degree. It certainly is not that.
This is a good question. What are some tips for success to be successful in life?
In life? Well, I think that honestly, this is something that I'm actually trying to impart to my son. And I think it actually does have a lot of application to magic in general. Something that I've repeated, I think in the last interviews that we did and when I did the podcast with Sam Tang a while back, something that I also repeated. And that's basically, I think that one of the most important things you can do in your life is pay attention to what evidence shows you. Understand that truth is objective and that no amount of you wanting a thing to be a particular way is going to actually change that. As human beings, we have the ability to affect our environment. We have the ability to affect some things around us, but be very aware of your limitations and be aware of what you can and cannot actually affect. Don't assign more ability to you and your fellow humans to affect things than you truly are capable of doing. So along those lines, if you are pursuing something in your life, and it doesn't matter what it is, be it a business or a relationship or a magic deck or anything else, if the evidence is showing you one particular thing and one particular outcome, believe in that. Pay attention to that evidence, even if it seems to violate your own pre-established or predetermined beliefs about something. You know, I've had people say to me, what if you saw, like, obviously I don't believe in supernatural things. I don't believe in ghosts or anything like that. Someone said, well, what if you saw a ghost? Would that change your mind? And I would say, no, it wouldn't. Because my own subjective perception of that is just one tiny, tiny, tiny shred of evidence relative to a much larger set of evidence that says that ghosts and supernatural things are figments of our imagination. So it's so much more likely that my belief that I saw a ghost is just a hallucination or my brain doing something weird or a trick of the light than it is something that violates all of the evidence to the contrary, that there are no such things as ghosts, because it would violate everything that we understand in science and chemistry and physics and everything else, this giant massive body of evidence-based human belief. It's sort of, extrapolating that out to just everything you encounter in your life. If you pay attention to the evidence, if things are not going the way that you hope for them to go, if it seems like whatever belief you harbored in something is not being actually recognized in the real world, then it's very likely that your perception about it is wrong, that the facts are stating something that's independent of your opinion. And other than that,
no,
I think
that's perfect.
Yeah, well,
Awesome.
other than that, I think that you cannot overstate the value of hard work and devotion to things. To really truly be successful at anything and to be great at something, you have to be willing to put your heart and soul and all of your time into it. I'm a good Magic player because I devoted a huge portion of my life to playing this game. I played it pretty much nonstop for probably in excess of 60 to 70 hours a week for 7 straight years. It was all I did. I lived, sleep, thought, breathed this game. It's all I did. And so in retrospect, people look at me and they see me make these instant snap judgments and stuff about counter magic and just feel like I have all these prodigious skills. And sure, I have talent for the game. But what you're really seeing is just the consequence of thousands and thousands and thousands of hours spent doing something. So be cognizant of that. People tend to really overrate talent as a thing. Talent is a thing in that people have small innate advantages.
Right, but hard work is
absolutely
something you
what
can
trumps
control.
Everything else. Exactly. There are people who are incredibly mediocre at nearly everything, but they've devoted so much time to one particular endeavor that they look like they're prodigious at it. They don't have any actual talent for it at all. They just have thrown all of their time at it.
Excellent. All right, tell the viewers a time you made a mistake, a challenge in your life, whatever, and you overcame it. It can be something about life. It doesn't have to be about magic.
Yeah, no, I understand. A time I made a mistake and overcame it. Okay, well, I would say that it relates back to, this is a story I told to my son, actually, my 8-year-old son recently. There was this camp that I went to up in the wilderness called Deer Crossing, which is still around. And I went there for 3 years. I think I went when I was 14, 15, and 16 years old. My friends had gone to it, and it's a camp way up in the wilderness that is run, the director of the camp is a guy who spends, when he's not running the camp during the summer, he spends his time as a motivational speaker in dealing with youth in the Bay Area. And one of his biggest maxims, one of the things that he tries to teach to all the kids at the camp is this idea of don't say you can't do something. Say that it's hard for you, but the moment you say you can't do something, you're surrendering and giving into it. And when I first went to this camp, I was very full of myself. Really kind of as many teenage boys are. I really believed that I kind of had everything figured out. I was super smart and super capable at everything I had done, and I was good at sports, and I was going to go and just kick ass at this camp in whatever way. And I was really challenged at it. There was a lot of hard stuff. And at the end of every 2-week session during this camp, everybody would have the option to go on these different hikes, different difficulty levels and intensity of hikes. And the pinnacle of the hikes that these kids would go on was called the ascent. And it was basically where the campers would go and plan out their own off-trail route through the Sierra Nevada and the High Sierras and hike for quite a distance, like 10 miles a day off-trail, which is actually quite a bit, over 3 days. And so they were doing the sign-ups for this hike, and I was super gung-ho, like, oh yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to go on the ascent. I'm going to go crush it. I'm a great hiker. I know I'm a distance runner, and I'll do fine. And so I signed up for it. And a day or two later, whatever, the director went and told all the people that had signed up for the ascent whether or not they were eligible to go. And he came and talked to me and said, I'm not going to let you go on this hike. You're not ready for it. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? How can I not be ready? Right? I'm like totally physically capable of doing this. Are you kidding me? Look at some of the people that you let go. There's like this fat girl who's going to go and stuff. What the hell's the matter with you? And I just totally blew it off. Like I completely just brushed off his criticism and stuff. And I said, oh, it must have been a mistake. Clearly, like he had it wrong, and he just must have made a mistake. So I wound up going on like the canoe trip or something, which was for basically the laziest kids. And 2 weeks later, the same thing came around again, and it was time to go on to sign up for the hikes again. So of course I signed up for the ascent the second time, and was fully prepared to just be told that I was going to go on it with everybody else because why not? And again, the director came to me and said, "Listen, I'm not going to let you go on this hike again. You haven't changed at all. Like you're just the same person. You didn't even listen to any of my criticism at all." And I was just utterly devastated. And it was the first time in my life that I had really been told outright by an adult who wasn't, a parent who's normally critical of you anyway, that I had some serious issues that I needed to address. And it was like just a huge awakening for me personally. Like it's just a huge wake-up call, recognizing like maybe this person, his criticism could in fact be valid, and I need to be introspective about it. And I made this huge mistake where he gave me this opportunity to listen to his criticism and really try to better myself over the next 2 weeks. And I just totally didn't do it at all. I just ignored it and blew it off. So I was totally crestfallen and crying in my tent and stuff. And he came back out and said, we went for a long walk. And he said, listen, I'm going to give you a series of directives. These are like the 5 things that I want you to focus on. I'm going to let you go on the ascent hike, but these are the 5 things that you need to really focus on. And when you get back, I'm going to expect a good report from the instructors who are going with you, the people that are overseeing the hike, because they don't just let the kids go off on their own. And so I went out and really devoted myself to following these sort of 5 instructions, and I don't remember them all. It's not really too important. But I came back from that hike a different person. From that point onward, not just at camp, but through the rest of my life after that, it was really like just a huge formative experience for me for the very first time, really kind of waking up as a person. And so, to get back to the original question, as far as a mistake was concerned, to sort of blow off the criticism initially, to not see it as an opportunity to better myself, and then later on overcoming that by really throwing myself into that task.
Was it the hike or was it the...
It was the interaction with the people in the context of the hike, and how they reacted to me in turn.
And it humbled you.
Absolutely, incredibly humbling. Yeah, I'm often really reluctant to use that expression. I find that people misuse the term humbling all the time. It's really obnoxious when people say things like, the adulation that I got after I did this great thing was so humbling. And it's like, what are you talking about? That's not humbling, that's the opposite. Humbling is when you think you're a badass and you find out that you're not, in fact, a badass at all. That's when you're humbled. I was very humbled by that experience, but changed ultimately for the better.
Excellent. Any recommendations for books for anybody to read?
Yes, there's a couple books that I've read recently that are really, really very fascinating. The 2 books that I recommend, one book is called The Power of Habit, which I read last year. Fascinating book talking about...
Author?
I don't actually recall, but you could find it on Amazon.
Yeah.
It's a really amazing book about human behavior and validated a lot of the things that I've encountered. To me, it answered one of the questions that I've held for a long time, which is why as you get older, your perception of the passage of time seems to accelerate. Mm-hmm. In the sense that when you're a kid, like the summer seems endless. Every weekend goes on forever. And when you're an adult, months go by in a blink of an eye and you have no recognition. And The Power of Habit talks exactly about that and why that is the case. Why the human brain works a particular way, and how your brain is always trying to fall back into autopilot. It's always moving in that direction. And so the more of your life is spent on autopilot, the less you form long-term memories. And our perception of the passage of time is marked by the formation of palpable long-term memories. Yeah. In the absence of long-term memories, you literally have no perception of how much time has passed. Your brain doesn't even make the memories. So there's no way to know that months have passed, and that's really what your memories are. Second book is a fantastic book about big data called Everybody Lies, which is a fascinating exploration into Google Analytics and specifically Google Trends, and what Google Trends indicate about how the population at large, or populations in general, are thinking, completely irrespective of what they report in surveys and so on, and about how Google Analytics and Google Trends were an incredibly powerful predictor of the 2016 election, completely independent of the polls and everything else, for example, and many other things along those lines. Very, very awesome, fascinating book. Those 2 books. There's obviously hundreds of other books I can recommend, but those 2 in recent memory.
Perfect. All right. So actually there's 2 more big questions, and then we'll just cut this video a little shorter. And they're really good questions. And guys, thanks again for watching. I know it's a lot of videos. Brian, thank you again.
If you're still here, you're very patient.
If you guys are still here, you guys are seriously. I think what you said about if something's not happening right in your life, it resonated with me a lot because it makes me realize about my alcoholism. I didn't make the changes in my life there's so many things that went wrong, right? Like you're saying, it kept going and going. Things were not, weren't happy for me. And you realize that unless you're willing to make changes, really to accept that, nothing will ever change. Things will just get worse. Maybe magic decks, or like in this case, and people, but it's also life experiences.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter any kind of addiction, or any kind of bad habit, bad fast food eating, whatever. You have to make changes. And what you said was a ton of wisdom there. And I really remember just the moment I changed my life, right, that way. There's a moment it clicks in your brain. So, All right, guys. Thanks again. Last video coming up.